Hi, my name is Genie, and this is Dreams to Reality. So, Dreams to Reality, the podcast is based on my book about the 4 keys of manifestation, and just to talk a little bit about the 4 keys. It's clarity, clearing, subconscious reprogramming, and aligned action. Basically, in order to manifest, you have to be clear what you want, and then clear what gets in the way, and then retrain your subconscious mind to create a new reality, and then take aligned action. We are in this physical plane, so we create using our bodies. But the topic for today is you are the creator of your life, and you're a powerful storyteller, and the story that you tell yourself will determine the kind of life that you will have. So essentially, we are powerful storytellers. So the stories that we tell ourselves and the stories that we tell others will determine the quality or the direction of our life. You know, when we're in a victim mentality, we blame the other person, or whoever has wronged us, we blame them for whatever happened to us. And once we do that, we feel powerless, and essentially we're telling ourselves that I have no participation in this one. I'm a passive. I'm just passive or a passenger in this journey, and basically not taking responsibility. And I have been there before a few years ago, around 2018. So my 5-year relationship ended, and at that time, he left me for someone else, and I did have that victim mentality, and I was depressed, and I was like, oh, how could he do this to me, and stuff like that. And then I realized, it did happen overnight. I realized, like, okay, so this is what happened. What was my contribution to this? Of course, I'm not saying that what my ex did was right. He did still do something, but he is responsible for his own actions. But I am responsible for moving on and creating something better for my life, or for my life. And so what happened was, I really took a hard look at myself, and then I realized, like, why did I create this? How can I create something better? And how can I move on from this? And so I created a different story for my life, actually. And I, through that process of losing, basically, essentially, the things that I worked for 5 years. So I was living in New York, New Jersey. I was in a relationship with that guy, and he just left us all behind with his dog, I might add. But throughout that journey, I was able to travel across the US, and I actually found a different passion. I've always wanted to write when I was a young kid. Probably in my elementary years, I was already writing stories, doodling, just making up stories in my head. So I always wanted in my heart to be a writer. At one point, I wanted to be a journalist. Anyway, I did want to write stories. So because of that whole journey of, losing someone, and I was able to create a different story, which is I became a self-published author, and I started publishing in 2019, and since then I haven't looked back, and I have 10 books and counting. So see, you can literally change your life by changing the story of your life. Would you want to remain a victim, or would you want to just change the trajectory of your life by literally writing a whole different chapter? As for me, I tossed the old book and wrote a completely different book, and I'm now living happily in Southwest. Is it Southwest? I think it's in Texas. So I never thought that I would wind up in Texas, and it's just strange how it was essentially like the universe was giving me clues. So my friend, so he was like my college classmate. He kept pushing that I would move to Texas. He said, oh, you should just move to Texas, move to Texas. And I'm like, no, I'm not moving to Texas. So I did stay in Colorado for a bit and New Mexico. And would you know it, I wound up in Texas. So never thought I would move to Texas. So I was living in New York, New Jersey at one point, like 5 years of my life. And never would I imagine that I would move to Texas. But before I did move to Texas, I did already write, my intention list. Another pro tip, you have to write down what you want to manifest as well. And I wrote it down, and I worked with it with my coaches, my life coaches, and essentially I wrote down like I want to be in a place that has like a huge Asian population or Asia town, Chinatown, whatever. Also, with a lot of Filipinos. I'm Filipino, and near an international airport, and it should be diverse. Should be diverse. That was like my top of the list. And also, where I will eventually find my next guy. And would you know, in 2020 I did wind up in that place. I never thought it was Texas at that time, but I wound up, essentially I discovered that Houston is actually, and that's where I am right now, that's where I am that's where I have been living in for 2 years. I discovered that Houston is actually the most diverse city, and it has topped New York and New Jersey, because in my head it's like, New York, New Jersey, I live there, that's most diverse. I was so shocked. Actually Houston is the most diverse. And I think one thing too I wrote is at least the weather should be more stable than the Northeast and Colorado. Colorado's crazy, 50-degree temperature drops. The Northeast, we've been having a lot of snow. So I said, essentially good weather, or weather that I can tolerate. So I like heat more than cold. So it heats up here pretty bad. And then rain, I'm used to rain. I'd rather have rain than snow. And so I did have that, and I said I want to be near an international airport. So there's actually one, the George Bush International Airport. That's actually where I flew from, to go back home. Didn't have to take multiple connecting flights. Also, it should have a lot of Filipinos, and would you know it, I'm actually hanging out with Filipinos right now. It's not the demographic that I thought I was going to hang out with. Like I thought I was going to be hanging out with people my age group, but it wound up that it's around my dad's age group, which makes me feel, I feel like I have a bunch of people, looking out after me because they're older, wiser, and it's really fun. They're really fun, and and just makes you realize that sometimes you may have that like direction in your life, like, I want to take that direction, but the universe takes you in another direction, but you just got to go with it, and I really, really think that it was for a higher purpose, because right now, I became a certified hypnotist. I've always wanted to do that, and it was possible because I literally took a different route, different direction in my life, became a writer, goal setting coach, So that's how powerful stories are. You may have for now a story that, hey, you may be down in the dumps and you may have lost everything, but you can write a new story to your life, because you are a powerful creator. You are, a powerful manifester. You are the predominant creator in your life, and you write the story of your life. not other people, not your family, not your parents, not your loved ones. You write the story to your own life. And if I'm any testament to that, saying, I literally rewrote the entire thing. I wrote a whole different book and I started afresh, and yeah, this is the new foundation for my life. And I'd like to add as well that, when things fall apart, it literally is just clearing for ways for it to expand and get better and grow. So in science, before in grade school, we always talked about the butterfly and metamorphosis. The butterfly essentially starts out as an ugly caterpillar, and people don't really think about it, but it is kind of traumatic to be a caterpillar, and you have to go through that process, and you have to get out of your cocoon. So that process takes a lot of effort, and actually if you actually hasten the process, the butterfly can die. But that's how life works. When things crumble and fall apart, you emerge out of your cocoon, you lose your old body, but then what emerges is something beautiful. And that is the process of living, and that's a process of life. It's just constantly growing, expanding, and it can be uncomfortable. It really can. Imagine this forest, before it became a forest, it started with a seed, and the seed started small, right? And it had to, the plant, the tree within the seed had to literally expend energy to get out of that outer shell in order to expand and turn into a tree, and the tree became a forest. There's more trees, and then you get my drift. Anyway, yeah, I hope this topic has been of help to you, especially if you are down, depressed, and you lost everything. There really is hope. As long as you're alive, there's hope, and you can turn things around. Just write a different story to your life. And yeah, sure, you can be a victim for now, but don't stay a victim. And you'll know when it's time to emerge and create something better. As in my case, a whole new different profession, if you can call that. This is just, I just love writing, and I think this is what I'm going to be doing from now on. Aside from content creation, of course, I produce a lot of content. That for me is sort of like the sideline, but I really want to focus on my writing because it's where I find self-expression. So anyway, I'm also a goal setting coach, and do check out my YouTube, check out my group coaching there, and check out my Stan store. It is stan.store /Mystic Genie 88. I'm also on TikTok, Mystic Genie 88. So it's basically Mystic, MYSTIC, Genie, GENIE 88. So look for that on TikTok. Also Genie Hermoso, and on YouTube as well. So I'm all over the place. I have a book on Amazon, Dreams to Reality, and of course this podcast as well. And do write me homeofgenie@gmail.com if you have any questions or a topic you would want me to tackle. But yeah, thank you very much for listening, and have a nice day or evening or midday, wherever you are in the world. Thank you.